In this case, I'm guessing, who or what or how many people. Will it be just one person? I'm thinking probably a few people, depending, if let's say, US has got its own place. I think the issue here is going to, for me, it's going to be how it's going to be handled, how it's going to be managed, what the approach will be to make sure that, our voices are heard. Yes,
Yeah.
we were able to vote, which was a very good thing. And I think that was the first step.
Yeah. Who feel like diaspora, why does it require ministry? Like what's the point of having a diaspora ministry? Omosh?
To me, as someone who's been living out of the country for a couple of decades, I won't say how many, uno nyamaza.
I'm quiet, bro.
Yeah, no, nimekuona hapo ukimetameta. So, yani, this is so refreshing. And for me, if they can do even just a quarter of the things that we need done, we'll be so far ahead. But for the need for from a diaspora perspective is that we would have a desk or you have a channel or a way or a form that grievances can be heard. Any issues that people are having, whether it's employment, whether it's immigration, whether it is financial, whether it is investment, whether it is in terms of, I was saying immigration, but I'd say migration. Potentially somebody has won a green card or the lotto or the lottery or whatever you want to call it and wants to now, move to the US, what do we need to do? Those channels can possibly, having that particular channel or having somebody or area where you can go, those would be things that would help via the diaspora. And it could be returning diaspora or folks who are getting out to the diaspora. That's one way of looking at it. Just having that one vehicle, one space, one area where all these issues can be addressed would definitely be a plus and a win for us. And I know we went back and forth in other groups or other chats, and at some point we never used to have a tourism industry or
tourism ministry. Yeah.
Tourism ministry, but we had all of these things there. And even though, tourism is now thrown into culture and all sorts of different things, some of those portfolios never existed until people agitated and said and showed the need for having this particular unit or area. And we have seen just through what the diaspora does from a financial perspective, just by that alone, there's space and there's need and there should be ability for those people to channel the rest of the income and or monies that they have back home or wherever they're willing to channel, and through channels that don't necessarily need a rela who's sitting in the village sending you pictures of a house that is being completed next door that's supposed to be a house. So the diaspora ministry can bridge those gaps, in my opinion. Back to you, studio.
All right, asante sana Omosh, and we have Pablo here. Pablo, karibu sana once again. And Pablo says, I think the question hour that the president once introduced is a good thing, to have cabinet secretaries go to parliament and answer questions when required. And then Pablo further says, anyone know how Governor Mutua would have compared with Ababu Namwamba? I feel like Ababu really wanted this CS nomination, but I'm sure Governor Mutua will do a good job. I think Ababu was given the Ministry of Sports. And then Pablo further says, I think it is good that the president has set up the Diaspora Affairs docket because it is important from the perspective that people outside the country are still engaged with matters back in Kenya, like remitting money, investing in Kenya, collaborations. Asante sana, Pablo. Now, Uno, back to you. We've had diaspora under the Foreign Affairs Ministry before when Amina Mohammed was Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary.
Mm-hmm.
What's gonna and it wasn't effective.
No,
it was not effective at all. So what is it that's maybe making some people feel or think that this that this one might work? Because this is an experiment that we've tried before.
Schools of thought are different in terms of it working. Some of us are still, someone like me, I'm still pessimistic, to be quite honest, in that, because and just for clarity, we're not just saying diaspora is just Stito.
No.
We want that to be clear. It's not just Stito, it's the entire world.
Yes.
So I think one challenge which I'm waiting to see is how all those pieces are going to be put together to make it fluid. For the last, I don't know, gosh, at one time I think Dennis Itumbi was the guy who was in charge of that docket.
Yes.
And that was that. Another thing is who is going to be chosen, or if it's in that docket, who is going to have the reins on it. In this case, I'm guessing, who or what or how many people. Will it be just one person? I'm thinking probably a few people, depending, if let's say, US has got its own place. I think the issue here is for me, it's going to be how it's going to be handled, how it's going to be managed, what the approach will be to make sure that, our voices are heard. Yes, we were able to vote, which was a very good thing. And I think that was the first step.
Yes.
The very first step. And especially in the States, that the first step, we were able to vote.
Yeah.
Now, I guess what I'm trying to say is how the docket will be fulfilled by the persons who are chosen, and how engaging they shall be with us.
Now, when you talk about engagement, my concern, like when you rope in diaspora with another ministry, with a very heavy ministry like Foreign Affairs, which is a heavy docket in itself. And I'm thinking, when Cabinet Secretary Alfred Mutua is, for example, coming to the US, is he thinking about going to meet with US Secretary of State Antony Blinken, or is he thinking of coming to Swahili Village to meet Kenyans? And to me, that's a paradox.
Both
that we have, because you're here, you have this heavy responsibility as a Minister of Foreign Affairs, so the diaspora is there, and what I feel is gonna happen is what was happening before. Like they come here as Ministers of Foreign Affairs, they have heavy jobs, like in the State Department, or meeting, like if they're meeting trade partners or whatever they're doing here. And then when it comes to seeing and engaging Kenyans, it's a last minute thing that's organized
or by the way,
or maybe the embassy starts emailing people, Waziri uko hapa, he wants to meet Kenyans. Then we just meet, like a few people, and nothing comes out of it. That's the reason why I was personally, like pushing for a separate diaspora ministry. And I know some people feel like, why should the diaspora get a ministry of its own?
And
tourism as a ministry, and the diaspora earns more money to Kenya than tourism does. That's just that's just one example. And I mean, of course, earnings is not the only consideration,
right?
But I think like the Kenyan diaspora has gotten to that level where the economy actually depends on it to perform. So I think it's important to have someone who will have focus.
No, I wanted to ask, and I'll play devil's advocate, based on the conversation that was going on, in terms of